The market was silent that night. Every alien kept their eyes down, whispering about the place no one dared to mention. But then, a human stepped forward. His name was Ethan, and he was not afraid of the warnings. He had heard the stories about a forbidden place, hidden deep within the alien city, where even the bravest never returned. When he crossed the boundary, the air turned heavy, and the walls began to glow with strange light. The ground trembled, as if the place itself was alive. Suddenly, a voice shook the chamber, sharp, furious, and filled with power. "You dare enter the forbidden place, human? You've defiled it forever," roared the mistress, her eyes burning like fire. Ethan froze. He thought he was only exploring, but now he had awakened something far greater. Something no human should have ever touched. Ethan had never been the type to listen to warnings. The market whispers only made him more curious. He had arrived on this alien world just a week ago, but already he felt the pull of its secrets. Everywhere he went, he heard the same hushed talk about a place that no one entered. They called it the Forbidden Place, a part of the old city sealed long ago. The locals avoided even looking in that direction. When he asked about it, their faces grew pale. Some shook their heads and muttered prayers in languages he could not understand. Others turned away, as if even speaking about it could bring trouble. But for Ethan, the more they hid, the more he wanted to know. Late one evening, he followed the faint glow he had noticed beyond the edge of the city. A narrow path wound between crumbling towers, their shapes bent with age. The air grew heavy, and a strange sound, almost like a heartbeat, echoed through the stone walls. His steps slowed, yet he kept moving, drawn forward as if something unseen was guiding him. The passage opened into a wide chamber, carved with symbols that pulsed faintly with light. The floor was smooth, almost like glass, and cold mist drifted across it. Ethan knelt, running his fingers across the strange markings. They were unlike anything he had studied before, alive with a faint hum beneath his touch. As soon as his skin touched the markings, the light surged brighter. The chamber shook softly, dust falling from the walls. Ethan stumbled back, eyes wide. He had not expected such a reaction. His curiosity turned to unease, yet it was already too late. The place had awakened. A sudden presence filled the air, like a storm pressing down on him. Shadows stretched along the walls, bending unnaturally. The temperature dropped, and his breath misted in front of him. Then came the voice, sharp, commanding, and filled with anger. "You dare enter the forbidden place, human? You've defiled it forever." Ethan spun around, his heart racing. At the far side of the chamber, she appeared. A tall figure stepped out of the glowing mist, her eyes glowing with silver fire. Her form was unlike any alien he had met before. Elegant, regal, and wrapped in dark robes that shimmered with threads of light. Her presence alone made the air heavy, as if the entire chamber bent to her will. Ethan opened his mouth but could not speak. Her gaze was fixed on him, piercing and full of judgment. She took a slow step forward, and with every step, the light on the walls pulsed brighter, responding to her. "You have touched what was never meant for your kind," she said, her voice echoing around him. "This place has been sealed for ages, guarded from all who would bring ruin. And yet you, a human, walked in without thought, without respect." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't mean harm," he managed to say, his voice trembling more from the weight of her presence than from fear. "I didn't know." "Silence." Her voice cut through his words like a blade. "The moment you touched the seal, you awakened what should never wake. Your ignorance does not absolve you." The ground rumbled faintly beneath their feet. Ethan glanced down and saw cracks spreading along the markings where his hand had touched. A faint light seeped out, like fire trapped under glass. He stepped back, realizing that his single action had done something he could not undo. The mistress, as she seemed to be, turned her gaze toward the spreading cracks. For a moment, her expression shifted, not just anger, but something else. Worry. Her hands tightened at her sides, and the glow around her brightened as if she was trying to hold the chamber together. "You cannot remain here," she said, her tone lower but still sharp. Your presence disrupts the seal. The very air rejects you. Ethan's chest tightened. He felt the pressure growing, a weight pressing on his shoulders, as though the chamber itself wanted to push him out. And yet he also felt something strange, a pull deep inside, connecting him to the glowing markings on the floor. He looked at the mistress again. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "What is this place?" Her eyes narrowed, silver light reflecting in them. For a moment she did not answer. Then she said, "It is a prison, and you have weakened its chains." The words struck him harder than the trembling of the ground. A prison. But for what? He wanted to ask, but her expression warned him not to press further. The chamber groaned again, louder this time, as more cracks spread. The symbols on the wall flared like fire, and the mist grew thicker. The mistress raised her hand, and the glow around her surged, steadying the chamber for now. Her voice carried urgency as she looked back at him. "You should not be here, human. You have done what no other could. And now the choice of what follows rests on you." Ethan's breath caught. He had thought he was only exploring ruins. But now, in a single mistake, he had stepped into something far greater, something the universe itself seemed to guard. And though he wanted to run, something inside told him that whatever had begun would not let him leave so easily. The air inside the chamber felt heavier with each breath. Ethan stood frozen, watching the cracks glow faintly on the ground, while the mistress moved with quiet but powerful grace. She lifted her hand, and streams of silver light circled the walls, holding the broken patterns together. Her eyes stayed fixed on the seal, but her voice reached him with sharp clarity. "You have disturbed what was never meant for you," she said, her tone carrying both anger and unease. "Do you understand what you have done?" Ethan shook his head, his voice hesitant. "I touched the markings. I didn't know. I thought they were only old designs." Her gaze shifted to him, and for the first time, Ethan noticed something behind her anger. It was not only fury. There was fear. Her expression softened for the briefest moment before she turned back toward the trembling ground. "This is not just stone," she explained slowly. "This place is alive. The seal was placed here to guard what rests beneath. You may not believe it, human, but by stepping inside, you have stirred something ancient." The words hung in the chamber like a weight. Ethan looked around, seeing the strange glow pulse as though the walls themselves were breathing. The silence pressed against him until even the sound of his own heart felt too loud. "What rests beneath?" he asked, his voice low, almost afraid of the answer. The mistress did not respond at first. She closed her eyes, as though searching for strength before she spoke again. "Something that should never rise. My people called it the devourer, a shadow without form, a hunger without end. Long ago, it was bound here. It can never be released, for if it is, nothing will stop it." Ethan's mouth went dry. He wanted to step back, to retreat to safety, but his feet would not move. The ground pulsed faintly beneath him, as though reminding him he had already crossed the line. "But why me?" he asked quietly. "Why does it react to me and not to anyone else?" The mistress finally turned fully toward him. Her silver eyes glowed brighter in the dim chamber, reflecting a storm of thoughts. "Because you are human. Your kind carries something in its essence that stirs this place. No other race in the galaxy could wake it. Only you." The words struck him harder than any shout could. Ethan shook his head, disbelief running through him. "That doesn't make sense. I'm just one man. I didn't mean to start anything." "Intent does not matter here," she said firmly. "The seal does not see purpose, only touch. And your touch is unlike any other. You may think yourself ordinary, but this world does not see you that way." Ethan glanced down again, seeing the cracks glow more brightly. The light seemed to move toward him, as though the chamber itself was reaching for him. He stepped back quickly, but the glow followed his movement, crawling across the floor like water toward his shoes. The mistress's voice hardened. "Do not move further. Every step you take pulls the seal apart. Ethan froze, his chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. His mind raced with questions he could not form into words. All he knew was that something far beyond his understanding was unfolding, and he was at the center of it. The mistress walked closer, her robes whispering softly against the stone. She stopped only a few steps away, her presence so strong that Ethan felt smaller than ever before. She studied him carefully, her eyes narrowing. You may not realize it, human, but you now hold a choice. The devourer stirs, and if it rises, it will not stop with this world. It will spread. Your kind has touched the seal, and so only you may mend what you have broken. Her words carried a weight that pressed on his shoulders, heavier than the chamber's air. Ethan tried to speak but found his throat tight. All he could do was whisper, "And if I can't?" The chamber answered before she did. A deep rumble shook the floor, and from the cracks rose a faint dark mist that curled upward like smoke. It made no sound, yet it seemed alive, reaching and stretching as though searching for freedom. The mistress raised her hand, and silver light pushed the mist back for now, but her expression showed strain. She looked at Ethan with urgency. "You ask what will happen? Then listen. If you fail, there will be no galaxy left to save. The devourer will consume everything. This is why the place was forbidden, why no one spoke its name." Ethan's breath came quicker, his mind struggling between fear and disbelief. He wanted to deny her words, to step out and walk away. But deep inside, he knew he could not. His single action had already bound him to the fate of this chamber. The mistress lowered her hand, and the mist settled for the moment, though the cracks still glowed faintly. She looked at Ethan with a gaze that had shifted from pure anger to something else. Uncertainty, perhaps even a trace of hope. "You have done what no other could. Now the burden is yours. Decide carefully, human, for the path ahead will not release you." Ethan felt the chamber pressing against him, the glow waiting for his next move. And for the first time, he wondered if his life would ever belong to him again. The silence that followed felt endless. Ethan stood in the glow of the chamber, his thoughts swirling faster than he could control. The mistress had spoken of a shadow sealed away, a force called the devourer. Her words carried the weight of truth, yet he could hardly believe them. Still, the tremors under his feet and the faint mist rising from the cracks told him this was no story meant to frighten children. It was real, and he had awakened it. The mistress's eyes never left him. She seemed to be studying him the way a scholar studies an ancient text, searching for hidden meaning. Ethan felt uneasy under her gaze, yet something inside him stirred, a strange sense that she was not only judging him but also waiting for something more. Finally, she spoke again, her tone softer than before. "You ask why only humans can disturb this place. The answer is not simple. Your kind does not come from this galaxy. Long ago, before my people built the seal, there were whispers of travelers who arrived here from the outside. They were fragile compared to the old races, but they carried a spark that could touch what no other could. You are their descendants." Ethan blinked in surprise. He had grown up on Earth, believing humans were ordinary, small compared to the vastness of space. And yet, here she was, telling him that his people were different from every other race in the galaxy. A stranger among the stars, yet somehow bound to their deepest secret. He tried to find words, but only managed a quiet, "We are not from here?" The mistress nodded slowly. "You are not. That is why this seal reacts to you. It recognizes something old within you, something even my people cannot name. To us, you are both a danger and a hope." Ethan felt the weight of her words pressing against him. He thought of Earth, of all the people who lived unaware of these mysteries. What would they think if they knew? What would it mean for them to learn they were outsiders even here? The thought unsettled him, yet it also sparked a strange feeling of importance he had never known before. The ground beneath them gave a soft groan, and the cracks widened slightly. Faint lines of light stretched out like roots across the floor. The dark mist curled upward again, moving as though it sensed freedom nearby. Ethan stepped back, but the glow followed his movement, pulling toward him like a magnet. The mistress raised her hand once more, weaving silver light that pushed the mist down again. She exhaled slowly, the tension in her face clear. The seal weakens. I cannot hold it forever. If the devourer rises, even my strength will not contain it. Ethan forced himself to steady his voice. If I caused this, then tell me what I must do. How do I fix it? She looked at him for a long time, as though weighing his sincerity. Finally, she spoke. The seal was made with life, bound by the essence of those who sacrificed themselves to close it. To mend what you have broken, the seal demands the same. A life must be offered, willingly, to strengthen its chains once more. Her words fell heavy on Ethan's heart. He understood what she was saying, but he did not want to believe it. You mean, I have to give myself? Her gaze did not waver. It is the only way. The seal responds to you, and so only you can repair it. But you must choose freely. I cannot force this upon you. Ethan felt his breath shorten. He had come here chasing curiosity, drawn by whispers in the market, and now he stood facing a choice that could cost his life. The thought of ending here, in a place no human had ever been, far from home, was almost too much to bear. The mistress seemed to sense his struggle. For the first time, her voice softened in a way that carried no anger, only quiet truth. Do not think of it as only your burden. Every action carries weight, and yours has revealed a truth long hidden. Perhaps this is the reason your kind exists here. Perhaps it was always meant to be you. Her words gave Ethan no comfort, yet he could not ignore them. He looked at the glowing cracks, the faint mist reaching for freedom, and he knew she was not exaggerating. If the devourer was released, the cost would not be only his own life, it could be worlds, stars, entire civilizations. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to gather his thoughts. A memory of Earth flashed before him, blue skies, simple mornings, the laughter of children in the streets. He had left all that behind to wander the stars, to see things no one else had. Now it seemed that same curiosity might cost him everything. The chamber pulsed again, a louder rumble shaking the stones. The light from the cracks surged brighter, filling the chamber with an unearthly glow. The mistress stepped closer, her presence steady, as though anchoring the storm around them. She met Ethan's eyes and said quietly, "The choice is yours, human. You may turn away, leave, and let fate run its course. Or you may stay and seal what you have opened. No one else can decide this for you." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, but he knew the truth. Even if he fled, the shadow would not stop at this chamber. It would find its way out, and then no world would be safe. For the first time since he had entered the forbidden place, Ethan felt the full weight of destiny on his shoulders. He had not asked for it, yet it had found him. And though fear pressed against him, he also felt something else, a spark of determination that came from deep within. He looked at the mistress, her silver eyes waiting for his answer. His voice was quiet, but steady. "Then show me how." The place felt alive around him. The human could sense it in the air, like whispers moving through the stones, soft but impossible to ignore. The forbidden ground had its own breath, its own memory, and it seemed to watch every step he took. He paused often, not only to rest but to feel the way the silence wrapped around him. Too heavy, too deep, almost pressing against his chest. The mistress followed, her eyes never leaving him. Her expression was unreadable, not the same anger she had shown when she first found him, but something else, something more careful. She moved as if the ground itself answered to her. Yet even she avoided certain stones, certain shadows. That detail caught his eye, and it unsettled him more than the cold air. "You feel it too, don't you?" she finally said, her voice low, almost reluctant. "This place does not forgive easily." He looked around again. There was no sign of life, no sound of birds or creatures. Only the distant hum, like a note struck long ago that never stopped vibrating. He nodded slowly. "It feels alive," he whispered, unsure if he was allowed to put it into words. The mistress tilted her head. Alive, yes. And waiting. Her words lingered with him as they moved deeper inside. The walls of the ruins began to glow faintly, patterns showing themselves in the stone, lines and marks that shifted when he tried to focus. They weren't carved, not really. They moved like light sliding beneath the surface. He felt as though the stones were reading him, searching for something within him. The mistress kept her pace steady, but he noticed her hands tighten slightly, her long fingers brushing against the air as if to test it. She was not calm, not as in control as she wanted him to believe. That realization gave him both courage and fear. "Why bring me here then?" he asked carefully. "If this place is so dangerous, why not leave me outside?" Her eyes flickered toward him, sharp but also curious. "Because it called you," she said. "I do not know why, but when you stepped across the line, it reacted. This place does not answer to me anymore. But it answered to you." He stopped walking, his chest tightening with unease. "Me? Why me?" She didn't answer at once. Her silence stretched long enough that the hum in the walls grew louder, as though pushing at his mind. Finally, she spoke softly, almost like she was admitting something she never wanted to say. "Because you are not as ordinary as you think, human." The words felt heavy, landing inside him with more weight than he expected. He opened his mouth to question her again, but before he could, the floor beneath them shifted. The patterns on the walls brightened, and the silence broke with a low, deep tone that shook the air. It wasn't a sound made for ears, it was something that echoed inside the chest, in the bones. The mistress froze. Her eyes widened, not with anger this time, but with recognition. She whispered in a language he didn't understand, words trembling off her tongue. Then she turned toward him, her face pale. "You've awakened it," she said. He looked at her, lost, his mind racing. Awakened what? The glow spread around them, rising from the walls to the ceiling, until the whole chamber seemed alive with shifting light. The hum grew into a rhythm, like a heartbeat, and for a strange moment, he felt it matching his own pulse. The mistress's voice dropped even lower, barely a breath. "The heart of this place. The reason it was forbidden. It has chosen to notice you." Her words, her tone, the way her eyes fixed on him, it all told him one thing. Whatever had just awakened wasn't something even she could control. And now, whether he liked it or not, he was at the center of it. The silence of the ancient halls pressed on him as he walked deeper inside, and every step seemed to echo louder than the last. The air felt heavy, as if unseen eyes were watching from the dark carvings on the walls. He could sense that the place was alive in its own way, whispering secrets he was never meant to hear. The memory of the mistress's voice still lingered in his mind, her words sharp, warning him that by stepping here, he had crossed a line that could never be undone. But instead of fear, there was something else growing inside him, something that felt like a calling. Strange lights appeared faintly in the distance, like soft trails leading him forward. They seemed almost alive, weaving through the dark stone path, guiding him without touch. He hesitated at first, but curiosity kept him moving. The deeper he went, the stronger the pull became, as though something hidden at the very heart of the place was waiting just for him. He wondered if it was knowledge, a treasure, or perhaps a truth that even the mistress feared. The walls around him started to shift in patterns, symbols glowing faintly as if they were remembering old times. His eyes caught one symbol that shone brighter than the rest, and when his hand brushed near it, he felt warmth spread through his skin. It was not painful, but it was powerful, like the symbol recognized him. The thought made him uneasy. How could an alien place, forbidden to all outsiders, respond to him, a human? Unless the stories he had been told were not complete. He heard a soft sound, almost like a song, echoing faintly from the far chamber. It was not frightening, but hauntingly beautiful, drawing him further in. The light trails seemed to dance in rhythm with the sound, as though welcoming him. But a whisper of doubt tugged at him. What if this was a trap, not a calling? Still, he could not turn back, not after coming this far. When he stepped into the wide chamber, he froze. At the center stood something that looked like a pool of liquid light, glowing softly in shades of silver and blue. The air around it was warm and gentle, unlike the cold halls he had passed. For a moment, he simply stared, unable to believe what he was seeing. The pool reflected not only the room, but his own thoughts, his memories, and pieces of his past he had never spoken aloud. The sound grew clearer here, and now he realized it was a voice, faint and distant, but speaking in a language he somehow understood. It whispered of choices, of bonds between worlds, of a hidden path that only he could walk. His chest tightened as he realized this place was not meant to punish, it was meant to test. And somehow, he had already passed the first step by daring to enter. Then, he felt her presence. The Mistress. She was not there in body, but he could sense her watching, her power pressing like a shadow over the chamber. She was waiting to see what he would do next. He could almost hear her whisper across the silence, though her words were unspoken. Will you take what is not yours? Or will you prove why you were allowed inside at all? His hands trembled slightly, but he took a deep breath and stepped closer to the pool. Whatever it was, whatever secret it held, he knew this was the turning point. Either he would unlock the truth buried within this forbidden place, or he would seal his fate forever. The moment he stepped deeper into the glowing chamber, the air itself seemed to breathe around him. The walls pulsed faintly as though alive, each pattern shifting when his fingers brushed close. The human paused, realizing this place was not simply ancient ruins but something that had been waiting, watching, listening. His footsteps echoed softly, but strangely, the echoes did not fade. They lingered, repeating themselves like whispers in languages he could not understand. The Mistress had not followed him this time, though he could still feel her presence. She had allowed him to enter alone, as if the last test was not hers to give. Somewhere in the distance, a low hum began to rise, steady and powerful, like the heartbeat of the forbidden place itself. The man swallowed, his chest tight, yet he kept walking, driven by a pull he could not name. He reached a circle carved into the floor, where thin lines of light connected into a star-shaped pattern. As he stepped onto it, the lights flared, spreading through the entire chamber. Images formed above him, shifting stars, planets colliding, beings of light moving through the void. He realized they were memories, stories of this place, perhaps even the truth of the Mistress and her kind. But then the visions changed. Among the swirling stars, he saw something else, something familiar. Earth. His world. And then, he saw himself. He staggered back, his heart racing. The chamber was showing him not the past, but the path ahead. The voice returned, softer than before, not filled with anger but with something far deeper. You were never meant to come here, human. Yet fate brought you. Now, the choice rests with you alone. He looked around, realizing the walls themselves seemed to lean closer, waiting for his decision. The Mistress appeared in the light, her figure not solid but formed from the glowing patterns. For the first time, she looked uncertain, almost fragile, as though even she did not know what he would choose. Why me? He whispered, his voice trembling. Because the place chose you, she replied, her words echoing like wind. It does not see titles, or power, or blood. It sees truth. And yours burns brighter than you realize. The air grew heavier, and he felt the weight of it pressing against his chest. He was standing at the edge of something greater than himself, something no human had ever touched before. The vision of Earth shimmered above him once more, surrounded by threads of light that connected to countless other worlds. The chamber was asking him to act. But what would happen if he did? The Mistress watched him with wide eyes, no longer the figure of authority but someone who waited for an answer that could change everything. His hands trembled, but he took a slow breath. And then, with one step forward, he placed his palm against the glowing star pattern. The forbidden place roared to life, not with sound, but with light. Every wall, every line, every corner lit up in blinding brilliance. The chamber did not resist him, it welcomed him. The human was no longer a trespasser. He had become part of the place itself. The Mistress fell to her knees, not in defeat but in awe. For the first time in ages, the forbidden place had chosen. And it had chosen a human. The chamber quieted, the brilliance settling into a steady glow, as though calm had returned after a long storm. The man stood tall, his face pale, his heart pounding, yet his eyes steady. The mistress looked up at him, her voice a whisper of disbelief. "It is done. You are now bound to it. And nothing will ever be the same again."